I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that concept of actually, first of all, what is wealth, before we even get to the balance. And I think as a financial guide to families, our approach at BDO, Anthony, has really been around and starts with advocating having a framework for managing your wealth. And what we found is that if you categorize assets on your balance sheet to start to reflect like their true nature, you'll end up, I think, having a very valuable strategy for your success. And I think when we talk around organizing wealth, Anthony, and we talk around this balance, I think it's understanding the relationships between what makes up our balance sheet. And I think being aware of those components that make up a balance sheet is that they're not all assets are the same. So not all assets are equal. Not everything you own is an investment. And I think often the mantra that we talk about as wealth advisors is that true wealth is often what people don't see. And so having a strategy, or at least a framework to understand what makes up your wealth, is the good starting, is a very valuable starting point. And for us, business assets and lifetime assets really make up wealth. What falls into your lifestyle is largely an expense. And I want to just unpack a little bit about that. But once you have a framework for understanding what are the different categories of wealth, you then also have a basis in terms of understanding how do you manage that wealth? What are the rules that apply to it? And what choices do you make in how you actually direct income to assets that can create wealth? And so I think often I talk around the fact that we all know the difference between working and taking a holiday, but those lines get blurred when you work on holiday. I think the same applies to wealth, is that you intuitively, I think, you know the difference between like your business and investment and like your luxuries in life. But if you don't consciously categorize them, you're really going to start blurring the lines and not really going to know where you stand in terms of your wealth journey and what choices you can make. And so for business owners, what we suggest is these three circles, or the bucket approach. And so if I start with business assets, Anthony, that's simply your primary source of earnings. It could be you could have multiple assets that fall into this category, but it's every asset, every investment you've made that you are actively managing and that is generating an income for you and your family. And it's this category where you're investing. And so it's that invest strategy to allocate capital. Ian mentioned sort of properties and the like as structure into a company. We find that physical property is definitely a business asset. It's not an investment for your lifetime. And so if you manage it as a business asset, you're going to have a very different relationship with that asset. And so all assets that fall into this category, I think, really are those that are high risk, high return, and they will be the assets that have the greatest potential for your wealth creation. And so our advice is these are the assets you can gear. You should use leverage. You should insure them. You should insure yourself as a key individual. You should have business insurance. And knowing that this grouping of assets is really what's going to start funding how you live, and also funding that bucket of lifetime investments that you'll use when you're out of business or you've exited business.